Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. Today, I'm thinking that we ought to see if we can't get a bunch of stuff done on the Yamaha Rhino here. I did part one of this video, I don't know, maybe about a week ago. And let me see if I'm any good at adding the little video link here. I'll try to see if I can do that post-production. I'm learning here. The YouTube thing is still pretty new to me. So I'll try to add that link here and you can check out what I did taking it apart. I'll show you where we're at right now on this thing. We have got the top end of the engine off of it here. So the cylinder head is off because we had coolant coming out of the exhaust and coolant was overflowing out of the overflow tank, and we got an overheat condition at one point. After I took the cylinder head off, I brought it in to my favorite little machine shop locally and had them surface the head. If you have a cylinder head that you need to get surfaced, well, of course you can look up machine shops in your area, which is what I do. But if you have a nice thick piece of glass, you can put that down on your workbench and put some wet dry sandpaper on it and surface it yourself. I've never done that, so I need to find myself a nice piece of flat pane glass and try that out for myself. The other item that I am doing is I am replacing these stock head bolts. These are the stock bolts that hold the cylinder head on. There's 4 that go through the cylinder head and into the cylinder, and then these 2 come up through the cylinder and into the cylinder head. I'm replacing those with these head studs. So what the head studs do, let me get one of these out for you. Set the camera up. Try and make this a little bit easier on all of us. There we go. So this is the stock cylinder head bolt. Now the first thing is these are supposed to be a one-time use. What happens is you install them, torque them, and they twist a little bit. And then when you use them again, they will not torque the same. So that's mistake number 1 that I did. I reutilized these. Now what I am replacing them with is these head studs. So instead of putting this bolt through the cylinder head and into the cylinder and torquing it down, this stud screws into the cylinder. Then I put the cylinder head over this, and then you install a washer and this nut, and you torque that nut down instead of that bolt. Now this offers a couple of advantages. If you look at this visually, you could see that, if we can focus here, you can see that it's thicker. Now these I can reutilize as many times as I want, and I can also torque it down to a higher torque specification. These I can torque down to, let me read the literature that came with this. I can torque these down to 48 foot-pounds final torque. The stock ones torque down to, I believe, 28. I'll have to look it up, and I'm gonna get the manual out. For those of you who are already on me, RTFM, read the freaking manual. If I had read the freaking manual, maybe I wouldn't have reutilized these bolts. Now the piston kit that I installed came with some bolts, but the piston kit looked pretty good. The bolts I was a little bit sketchy on, and also the gasket kit that came with it. So on that note, I purchased a quality Cometic head gasket. And I will be using some copper spray, if I can locate it. Hopefully I still have it. We'll see if I still have that. We'll be utilizing that as well. It's over here in my mess of stuff somewhere, I'm hoping. Oh, yeah, and another note. When I was over helping my buddy work on his motorcycle the other day, he gave me this really cool magnet light. So I can attach that. Hopefully that'll help put some light on the subject. I'm going to go ahead and grab my micrometer. I'm just interested myself, and it will help show the difference in the thickness of these two. You can see the visible difference, but we'll run a micrometer over them, calipers, and see what the diameter difference is. Since we're in America here, or I am anyway, I'm going to use inches. See how the diameter of this one is. This will give us a pretty good idea here. 0.280 roughly. Oh wait, here we go. Let's get this thing in the jaws. There we go. Yeah, 0.282, right around there. Now this one is 0.352. Considerably larger. Handy little tool to have around. One of the things I'm going to do before I get to installing this into the vehicle is I'm going to check the valve clearances. Now this might not be in the manual, you know, and I have been preaching to read the manual. This is kind of an old trick. Now when you install this into the vehicle, it's going to be a real pain, especially those of you who've done this on a Yamaha Rhino. First off, you have to pull off some covers and all this and that to get the timing set up to check the valves. And second of all, these rear ones, the exhaust valves, are right kind of against the back wall of the back seat area, kind of. So they're really difficult to access. So if I put this cylinder head on now, install the bolts, and tighten this thing down to the proper torque specifications, I should, in theory, be able to check these valves and have 99.9% accuracy on the valve clearance. And I can tell already that I'm loose on the intake valves, possibly loose on these exhaust valves as well. But we'll find out because I have to torque these bolts all down on here. But that's just kind of a trick. I like to do this anytime I have the top end of an engine apart like this, because it's much easier to do on the bench. And your settings are not going to change when it's installed, because the distance between here and here is going to be consistent no matter what. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll get on to the next step. There's the manual. Valve clearance intake 10 to 15 thousandths millimeters intake and 15 to 20 exhaust. So yeah, I do read the manual. I've got the head, or valve cover I mean, installed. I was able to bolt it all down except for 1, 2, 3 that go all the way through. But I'm not concerned about that. We're going to be fine. Let's see here. All right, so there is, oh, I don't know if you can read that at all. There, you can kind of see it. That's the 10, the minimum thickness. So what you do usually, what I like to do anyway, is you have to get between the screw and lock nut adjuster on these. Install the minimum. This Yamaha has 3 intake valves. So the minimum slides in no problem. Now you have to take my word for it that that's the 15. So this is the maximum thickness. Now when you have them properly adjusted, the maximum thickness should go in and you should feel a slight drag. It shouldn't be impossible to push in there, but you should just be able to feel a little bit of resistance on it. This one's probably just a tad loose. It still has a little bit of resistance. And this one is perfect. So I'd say the two outside ones are perfect, and this one is probably just maybe just a fraction loose. Now, if you were a perfectionist, you'd probably tighten that one up. And I can be a perfectionist at times, but I also know that loose intake valves are not going to be a problem, especially that one. It's not crazy loose, it's just a fraction. I would say it's probably 17 thousandths, just over the maximum. Valves generally tend to get tight, so as this engine wears in, that one will get a little bit tighter. So I'm not going to worry about it. And that's your choice. You can decide what you want to do. You can adjust them. If you were racing, you would probably adjust it exactly at the middle. That's probably going to give you your best performance. Let's check these exhaust valves now. Now these were a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 20. And you can see even with this thing off the bike, it's hard to get to these because of the small window here. Now think about that. If it's against the wall and you're reaching over it, you have to look in a mirror. So it's a great time to adjust these, or check them at least. So the 15's going in, no problem on that one, and no problem on that one. Let's get the 20 out, if I can find it. Sorry about the shaky camera there. All right. Can you see that 20? Probably can't see it on here. All right, let's check that one. Goes in easily. It's got a little bit of friction. Now they also make feeler gauges that have a bend in them, a 45-degree bend, and those are the ones that you should have for this. I have a set, but they don't go small enough. They're too big. Let's see. And that one is also pretty good. Slides in nicely, slides side to side. Out is a little bit tricky because you're pulling it against that. So now, that took 4 minutes. Now I've got the valves checked, so that's one less thing I got to worry about once we get this installed. I'm going to take the cylinder head off and we'll see if we can't proceed. Here's one more visual before I go to installing the cylinder head studs to show you what the difference is. This is on the bench, of course, but imagine this is sitting on top of the cylinder, and these 4 bolts go through the cylinder head. Here's the other 2. Through the cylinder head and into the cylinder, holding this down. And then the short 2 come up this way. There's one underneath here and one underneath here. Now I'm going to bring the head studs over and we're going to install those on the cylinder. And I'll show you the difference. Now here are the head studs. I've got 2 of them already started threading in here. And you just thread these in until they bottom out. And they have an Allen head right in the top of them here, so you can use an Allen wrench to tighten them down. I brought over my Ryobi impact driver, but now looking at this, I don't see as if it's going to fit in here, so I'll just grab a Allen wrench myself and just snug them down. You don't have to torque them. There's no specific torque for these. They just thread in. And then the 2 short ones will thread into the cylinder head, and you can see that they will go through these holes. So when we put the cylinder head on, it's going to slide over this. And it appears it's going to be kind of tight, but I think we're going to be okay. We'll see how it goes. I've used these before, never on a Yamaha Rhino, but I did use it on a Kawasaki Teryx, which is also a side-by-side similar to this. And it had the same thing as this. It had a big bore engine with overheating and head gasket problems, which is pretty common because what happens is when they make the engine bigger, big bore, which means that you bore out this cylinder diameter here bigger, then you lose contact, surface contact right here where the gasket seals up. So if you're not using a quality gasket, you don't have a clean surface, and that's one of the next things I have to do is clean this surface off. It causes head gasket issues. So with performance comes problems. If you'd like to keep problems to a minimum, using stock components is probably your best bet. It's not always the case, but it's probably your best bet. So I'm going to grab an Allen wrench, tighten these down. I'm going to clean up this surface here, install the other two on the cylinder head, and then we will go on to installing the cylinder head. Now here's a nice advantage to these head studs, is that your cylinder head gasket shouldn't be able to move now. As you can see, I've coated this with the copper gasket spray. That's not something that's called out in the manual, but it's something that many people who work on engines do. Provides a little bit extra sealing, and we can use it in this situation. And as you can see, I had to take the wire that I had holding the timing chain off to feed this through, and I'm gonna have to take that off again to get the cylinder head on. Cylinder head is here. I've installed these two studs in the cylinder head. So all the studs are installed. Let's see if we can get the camera in a decent location for you all here. And then see if I can get this cylinder head installed. Oops, excuse me one moment. Let's try that. I got the light in place here, and I think I can make this work here. One-handed and all. Take the wire off, and then you have to feed the wire up through this cam chain tunnel, or whatever they call it on the cylinder head. And try to pull it up, because this will be a pain later if you don't get this right now. Alright, so we're just going to set this here while I pull this through. Excuse my arm there. Tie it up over here right next to the camera. It's exciting stuff, ladies and gentlemen. All right, and now it's as easy as, or it should be as easy as this. Let's see if it is. Okay, now you can see the head studs. 1, 2, 3, 4 are through. My cam chain is still through here. Excuse me. And there's the front one sticking through there. The back one you cannot see. And it looks like I have to go down just a little bit more to be flush. It's pretty close. I'm going to get the nuts installed. I'll put them on off camera, and then we'll show you the torque procedure. RTFM. Read the freaking manual. Here's the manual, and this is giving me the cylinder head torquing sequence and the original torque specs, which are 27 foot-pounds and 7.2 foot-pounds for the small bolt, which I haven't even showed you all yet. And there's the sequence, which means that you're going to go around and do them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have transcribed that over here, so I can just bring this with me. I need to write that one for the bolt number 7. 7.2 foot-pounds. 7.2 pound-feet, foot-pounds, whatever you'd like to put. Okay, now I'm going to show you my torque wrenches. So I have one here that is an inch-pound torque wrench. Now our specs are in foot-pounds, and those aren't even the right specs, by the way. That's for the original bolts. So let's go over here. Oh wait, one other thing I wanted to show you on RTFM here, if we can focus. Tighten the bolts in 2 stages. Now it doesn't say what stages to go to, but a thinking man would say you go about half. So first you'll go around in sequence and tighten them to about 13 foot-pounds, and then tighten them to 27, and the last one at 7.2, of course. Now with the new ones, it's given us 3 steps. Initial, 21 foot-pounds. The second step, 35, and a final torque of 48 foot-pounds. Doesn't say anything about the 7th bolt, so that one we're going to stay at 7.2. Now why did I break out an inch-pound torque wrench when we're doing foot-pounds? Now this inch-pound torque wrench goes to 150 inch-pounds. Let me see if I have a piece of paper here. Now a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to be a mechanic, I don't need to know math. Well, you kind of do. If you only had an inch-pound torque wrench and you had to do foot-pounds with it, it's pretty easy. How many inches are in a foot? That's good to write it down here. 12 inches equals 1 foot. That being said, 1 foot-pound equals 12 inch-pounds. Inch-pounds. So simple math. How much is 20 foot-pounds? 20 times 12. You can do this in your head. I'm just going to write it down here. Equals 20 foot-pounds equals 240 inch-pounds. So with this inch-pound torque wrench goes up to 150 inch-pounds. So those of you who are good at math know 12 times 12 is 144. So I can do up to a little bit more than 12 foot-pounds on this inch-pound torque wrench here. Now that's not really going to help us, but I just got it out here to show you all that if you don't have a foot-pound torque wrench, you can still utilize it. And this one's a clicker type here, so we just have to pull this out, which is easier said than done with one hand, but you can adjust it. All right, I'm going to take you over here. There's the 7th bolt, which we didn't talk too much about, and that one is 7.2 foot-pounds. I just left this on here. It's a smaller bolt, much smaller, doesn't get a head stud. So I went through all the head studs and I tightened them down just snug. Basically what I did is I put the proper socket on there, and I went around and I hand tightened them like this. So they're all snug. Now the only one I haven't done that on at this point is the back one, because OMG, it is very, very tight and difficult to get to. I remember this from the last time I did this. I had to use a flashlight and a mirror, but I'm gonna get it. It's gonna be very difficult to get back there with the torque wrench. I don't remember how the hell I did that. I'll figure it out. But I think I'm gonna call the video for today. I'm gonna get these torqued on here, and then I'm gonna call the video, and we're gonna make a part 3 of installing the camshaft, installing the cylinder head, and firing this thing up. Because otherwise this will be an hour-long video, and it's already pretty long, especially for those of you who maybe this isn't your thing, but maybe you're learning something, or maybe you're laughing at me, or maybe you're gonna have a cold beverage with me. It's hot in the garage, and it's after lunch, and it's beer time. But there you go. We did some math, and we did some mechanics. Not bad, all in a day's work. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.